I want to take a second to talk about a deadly combination of traits that I see online in interactions with fellow neurodivergents. There's impulsiveness, sometimes as a result of ADHD, difficulty self regulating, also a part of executive dysfunction that is correlated with ADHD, and it can occur among autistics as well. Difficulty with recognizing when it's appropriate to correct other people, and a lot of the times it's not, socially speaking, and a desire to advocate for social justice. And many of us as neurodivergents have all four of these traits. And online, that can lead to knee-jerk responses. It can lead to judgment, criticism, shooting from the hip, saying things that aren't particularly nice, polite, or considerate, not really gauging whether your words are going to have an unfair impact on other people, could trigger other neurodivergence, rejection sensitivity, could come across as judgmental, blaming, shaming. And of course, many people might respond to that by saying, well, I'm only advocating for what I'm passionate about. I'm speaking my truth. I'm being authentic. Don't ask me to compromise that. I should be allowed to speak freely. It's free speech. And I'm also doing it for a good cause if it's social justice related. I'm pushing back on somebody who's engaging in what I perceive to be bigoted or oppressive behavior or ableist behavior. That's all well and good. You can justify it any way you like. But at the end of the day, if you behave like this in a face-to-face interaction, you're probably going to get one reaction, and that's the other person shutting down, becoming angered, hurt, frustrated, and then wanting to punish, exclude, judge, mock, or ostracize you. And that's why a lot of the times we don't do that in person, because we know that there are consequences for those behaviors, and we get those consequences very immediately a lot of the time. Online, that consequence is delayed, and it's only by text a lot of the times. So we can feel like we have free reign to be more expressive and not engage the usual checks and balances about that we might otherwise do about our in-person behavior. It's called the online disinhibition effect, and it's what fuels bullying and trolls online. Feeling like you can cut loose and be and do whatever you want online because there aren't consequences attached, or you can't even see the consequences. And what kind of compelled me to do this video is to talk about this behavior not being, as far as I'm concerned, the right kind of behavior online. Yes, you can advocate for what you're passionate about. Yes, you might feel compelled to correct somebody if they're factually incorrect, or they're spreading misinformation, or they're engaging what you perceive to be as ableist behavior. But I think it's important to take stock of your own regulation and your own impulsiveness, and whether this correcting other people is you being overly picky or being critical and judgmental when the situation might not call for it. I know in interpersonal interactions, for example, I don't correct people over small stuff if I can avoid it, or unless I have good rapport with the person and I do it in a very kind or joking or a sensitive manner, right? I have an impulse as an autistic person to make sure everything's always right and to correct people and to tell them what's what if I feel like they're saying something factually incorrect. But I know that you have to give people social grace the same way you would like to receive social grace as a neurodivergent. And we all want that social grace because we've been deprived of it time and time again, often by neurotypicals. They have jumped at something we said, and they jumped down our throats and attacked us and shamed us for us just freely expressing ourselves. And that's a horrible feeling, and not one that we would want to replicate with other people. We don't want to correct people. It's shaming. Unless you do it with the utmost sensitivity and you have that relationship established, and many of us online don't when we're doing that with a perfect stranger. Advocating for social justice is important, but getting on your soapbox makes you kind of a bore. And online is great because you can connect with other people who share your social justice concerns. But if you come at a stranger with a very strong, judgmental, attacking stance and challenging them about their beliefs or their perceptions, it's not going to be well received. And it makes sense, right? And you might say, well, no, I'm not here to make nice. I'm here to push what I see to be as what is fair or just. But people aren't going to hear you. And if your intention is to have an impact, read the room. Like, before you start attacking somebody or getting on their back about something, be sensitive to the audience. Be conscious of who's hearing you and whether this is actually going to be impactful or you're just doing this on an impulsive reaction. And that brings us back to impulsivity and difficulty self-regulating. It's easy to get fired up as a neurodivergent, and it's really hard to wind down, relax, and substitute a disproportionate, angry, instantaneous reaction with something that's a bit more moderate. We're often going to go to the extreme in our reaction, and we're not going to think before we type. And delaying what you're going to say until you've had time to consider the implications of what you're saying and doing and how it might be read or how it might impact somebody else is essential to human relationships. And it's a lot harder for us because of the challenges I've outlined, but we still have a responsibility. The onus is still on us to behave in a way, to comport ourselves in a way that's considerate of other people's feelings and needs, just the same way we would want other people to do the same for us, to treat us with the grace and mercy that we've often been deprived of. And I don't think the onus should just be on us to do that. I think everybody needs to do that, but I think we need to live by our own values. And if that's something we want for ourselves, we should certainly want to give the same thing to other people as well. Have you encountered behavior online where somebody's responded in a discussion about, for example, something neurodivergent related, impulsively? They've come up with a really strong emotion immediately. They're correcting other people, and they're taking a social justice angle where they're going, I'm justified because of this. They're engaging in some form of puritanical, dogmatic arguments, black and white thinking, good or bad, and they're putting somebody in a box, or they're completely dismissing an idea outright, or they're coming really strong with their perspective. And how have you responded to that? And what's it brought up for you? Because the thing that I mentioned earlier, rejection sensitivity, is a real phenomenon among us. And it's a shame, I feel often, that our own folks, fellow neurodivergents, can trigger the same rejection sensitivity in us because they are shooting from the hip and behaving in a way that doesn't give other people grace or treat them with mercy or try to establish a mutual understanding rather than coming at it from a really strong angle and insisting their point of view is the point of view and should be widely taken up by others. I would love to hear all about your experiences.